Alright, so round one, we are on the play, and this hand is a little slow, but I think it's okay because we do have stuff to be doing. We have our colors, things like that. So I don't mulligan these hands with this deck. We are a control deck. We want the games to go long. We could just get wrecked, but we have to assume that our cards are going to play out. So it looks like we're up against Merfolk, led with Island and Vial. They missed their land drop. And it looks like this is the blue-green version that's become kind of a lot more popular lately. Now, the reason we didn't block there, we'd be happy to make that trade. All right, let's stop. So we would have been happy to make that trade, but they had a Vial on 2. So if we double block and they just Vial in like a Lord of Atlantis or a Master of the Pearl Trident, then their creature becomes a 3/3 and we just lose both our spirits. So we did not want to make that trade. So that's why we took that damage on that turn. And then on our turn, we drew a 4th land. So then we want to play Gideon and make a token. So now our plan is to just be able to make as many creatures as we can and then just start trading because we want to exhaust their resources. They have 7 cards in hand, so they have full grip. I expect to be seeing at least 1 creature each turn off the Vial, and then once they draw another land, we're going to be seeing multiple creatures a turn. So we need to put as many creatures onto the battlefield as we can, and then start making them bigger with our Anthem effects. So I considered embleming here, but I feel like we could wait a turn because even if it means we like block the 2/2 on the Silvergill and then like chump block the speaker for a turn, we could still emblem the Gideon the following turn. So I didn't feel like it was in danger of dying this turn. So you do have the Lord, so it's probably good that we didn't block. All right, so now the reason that we blocked that way is because, well, they cast a Lord and then kept a Vial on 2, which means there's a reasonable chance they have another Lord in hand. So we didn't want to just block our 2/2 into their potential 4/3. We wanted to make sure we killed their Silvergill. So we basically just threw away a spirit token in order to play around them having another Lord. And I think it's worth it at this point because the thing about the Merfolk deck is it kind of snowballs where the more creatures they have on the battlefield, the harder it is to get rid of any of their creatures because they all keep getting bigger and bigger and making each other bigger and bigger. And so we're okay with trading our resources to try to keep them on as few creatures as possible. So that's why I went ahead and did that. And now I wanted to do the same thing, kind of Liliana minus, just to get rid of one of their creatures. Now their creatures are in the most manageable spot that we can make. So now, okay, we'll make another knight. We'll flashback Lingering Souls. So now we have the same board we had last turn, except we have another planeswalker. And they're continuing to add to their battlefield. Now here's where they're starting to go off now that they have the 3rd land and the Vial on 3. So now we're kind of getting into rough waters. We can't really single-handedly pick off all their creatures. We're trying to buy ourselves as much time as possible. Now we emblem the Gideon, so we have 2/2s. So our plan is to try to set up some like double blocks where if we can, double block a 4/4 Lord, double block a 4/4 Lord, and then like single block a 4/4 Lord, then like this one dies from the 4 damage, making the other ones 3/3s. This one dies from the damage, making this one a 2/2. Damage checks from the single block, and then all 3 of the Lords die, and then their other creatures become manageable because now instead of being like 4/4s and 5/5s, they're just like 2/2s and 2/1s. So that was that was my plan. But then when they had more creatures, which isn't unthinkable given that they were stuck on lands and just had a full grip. But now they're able to kill one of our spirits, and then they're able to copy another lord. So now I'm thinking, okay, this position is such that like there's no good blocks I have that could just kill off lords. Like if I triple block one of the Regeries and then just chump block here, then I take 16 damage and go to 1. So now all of their creatures are lethal. And what's my plan here? Like, Soren, make a token. Okay, then I'm just dead. So at this point, I'm thinking my only way to win the game is to draw a Damnation or a Wrath of God. A Lingering Souls can maybe buy me another turn, but really it comes down to like this game is out of reach. My chances of winning this game are basically 10% or less, and that 10% hinges on me drawing a Wrath. So I basically just have to play as if I'm drawing the Wrath and put myself into a position to win if I draw that Wrath. And then if I don't, I'm going to lose, but I'm going to lose no matter what, even if I don't draw the Wrath. So let's block, 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 take some damage. Ah, there it is. I found it. And so since I'm at a reasonable life total and they have one card in hand and a vial on 3, I figured it was probably like another creature. And so I was like, okay, well, whatever it is, I'm going to pay the 2 life and Thoughtseize it. It was another vial, so it was not very important, but definitely want to get it out of their hand. And then, boom, Damnation. Now things are looking pretty good. We're not out of the waters. I mean, against Merfolk, you're never out of the waters. Um, but then we draw Lingering Souls. That was fortuitous. I mean, even if we just go Sorin, make a token, it's a 3/3, and the next turn we make another 3/3, play our other Sorin plus it, attack for 4. So then we have a pair of 4/3 flying lifelinkers, which I thought that was a pretty good plan, and it's going to take some really good draw steps from the opponent to try to beat that. But then we drew Lingering Souls, and I was like, well, I mean, that's just even better. So we didn't really need that Lingering Souls, I don't think, but it certainly was the better plan once we drew it. So now we're like, okay, I don't care what you have, I'm just going to attack you for 12 points of lifelink, and now it's just over. So that game, it went from being like pretty like the opponent was missing land drops, which kind of gave us time to eventually draw into the Wrath, and then we drew it at the last possible moment, and it won us the game. So that was all about Wrath or Damnation. So now the way we sideboard in this matchup, I bring in Disenchants because of Spreading Seas and Ether Vial. I bring in Flaying Tendrils because that's a way to just get card advantage and deal with their early board. I bring in Engineered Explosives because a lot of the creatures cost 2, and really 1 or 2 is good in this matchup because you can hit like Vial and stuff like that on 1. And then I brought in 1 Elspeth because at that stage in the game, once we get to 6 mana, it can kind of act as a Wrath because at that point they probably have multiple lords out and we're just chump blocking to stay alive. Then we just Elspeth minus. Or it can provide 3 chump blockers. It's not a great card in the matchup, but given what we're siding out 1 Inquisition, 1 Lingering Souls, 1 Sorin, 1 Liliana, and 1 Tech Edge. So we're just kind of shaving a bunch of cards that are not super good in the matchup, at least not super good in multiples. We're okay with drawing 1 of any of those, but then drawing too many of them, like none of those cards really shine in the matchup. So we just wanted to bring in all these other cards. So now, game 2. Game 2 in the draw. And I think this hand is pretty reasonable. Like we have the first removal spell for the first creature. We have the explosive, so if they lead with Vial, we could go turn 1 explosives for 1, and then we can blow up the Vial the next turn. before it really gets going. So that's one of the reasons I like this hand. And then if they don't lead with Vial, then explosives could potentially be a 2-for-1 later on to kill or even more than a 2-for-1, killing all of their lords plus their silver gills and things like that. And then Liliana is a good way to just when they only have one creature out, then we're just okay, Liliana minus, take care of your creature, then maybe path your other creature, tick up, and then be able to minus again and basically get 2-for-1. And since we have the answer to their Vial, they can't really get multiple creatures going off of cast creature, Vial in a creature. So that's where the Liliana is also good in this hand. So I keep this hand because it's good. We draw. Well, it's not going to be effective anytime soon, but and they have a turn 2 Vial, which was which was actually kind of not what we wanted, because now it's well, now what do I do? Do I Vial for 1 here, or do I explosives for 1 here, or do I wait a turn and then explosives for 1 and sack it? And my thinking was, well, I want to play Liliana next turn, and so if I play explosives on 1 this turn, then I can keep up path, so I can path their creature if I need to. Or if I don't, then I can untap and blow up explosives and then still have path. Or I could play this Godless Shrine tapped. So I was well, I think I should just go ahead and play this explosives for 1 because I do want to kill that Vial. That's unfortunately not what happens. The opponent's spell pierces us. So it looks like they have a Vial. And they play a creature. Okay. Well, unless you have a... Okay. So what I did there... So you might be thinking, why didn't I just untap Liliana minus? They have 1 creature. Well, the reason I didn't is because I was playing around them having a 1-drop. In the mono blue version, I think the only 1-drop is the Curse Catcher. But in the blue-green version, I think they have Curse Catcher and the new 2/2, whatever he's called, Kumano's Merfolk person or whatever. And so I didn't want to get blown out by that card. So if I Liliana minus and they Vial into play the 1-drop and sack the 1-drop, then they get to keep their Lord, attack my Liliana with their Lord, and then we're kind of in a position where we're that's not so good. I'd rather keep the Liliana around if possible. So I went ahead and cast Path to Exile. I figure if they have Curse Catcher, they'd Vial it in and sack to kill the Path, and we're all right, great. Land, Vial, minus, and then kill their Lord, and then we're in the situation we want. So I was kind of trying to bait that if they had that, and otherwise if they don't, then we just play on. So now we can Liliana and tick up. Just discard a land, and they do have the 1-drop. So interestingly, they have the, what is he, Kumena's Speaker, that's the name of it. So they did have the Speaker, but since we ticked up, they wanted to just discard it because it was their least effective card in hand, because they probably had Mutavault and then whatever other card they have here. And so they just discarded their least effective card. And the card they had was Master of the Pearl Trident. So we discarded Lingering Souls, and we played Lingering Souls. So it's a pretty close game, but we do have the Damnation. So here they attack Liliana, we just chump block, fetch, untap, sack a creature, and did they draw a creature? They did, and it was a good one. It was draw a card creature. So basically protect their Merfolk, or the Pearl Trident. They get to get a card out of it. And so I just play my land here, and I'm thinking I have Shambling Vent that's going to keep something back. Now this is where Magic Online actually froze on me, and I was unable to do what I wanted to do. And well, first of all, I activated the event because I wasn't sure how the rules worked on this, or if it like stays a creature till the end of the turn or not. It doesn't. It just becomes an island, even though Magic Online leaves it in the front, like in the creature row. It's apparently not actually a creature once the spell resolves. But so that's what I was trying to figure out. And then when they attack here, I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm just going to chump block with a spirit to keep my Liliana alive. They don't attack with their Master of the Pearl Trident. I guess they thought it worked this way as well. So then I'm like, okay, well, I want to just chump block and save my Liliana, so then I can untap and minus. But then Magic Online wouldn't let me for some reason. So I could not block with my spirit like I wanted to, so my Liliana just had to die. So I Inquisition here, baiting out in case they had a creature to play. Because if they have the creature to play, this is the turn where I think I want to Wrath. And if they don't, then, well, I mean, what else am I going to do? Of course, I'm just casting the Inquisition here. And the card they revealed was Spreading Seas, which they left on top, which is, again, one of the best cards they could have. Then they reveal a fetch land. Because that'll be useful, it'll shut down the vent, and it'll replace itself. So it's kind of ideal. Now I have a decision. Do I want a Damnation or do I not? And my thinking is I'll just attack and cast Damnation. So now they're just beating me down with the Mutavault. But I'm at 16, so I have time. I have Elspeth too. All right, it's not a land, but it's okay because it'll deal with whatever they have. And I chose to kill the Mutavault here with the Fatal Push because I felt like it was the bigger problem of the two. Not too worried about a 2/2 at this point. What do you got? And it is Nissa. Interesting. We drew the land. So now it's Nissa versus Elspeth. I think it's a relic. Okay. Blow up our graveyard. Here we have Island Walk. So you might be thinking, why didn't I chump block there? It's because we have islands and they have a Lord of Atlantis. So we could not block. We did draw a good card there, Gideon. So it was actually Wall into Gideon. Unfortunately, we can't cast our Gideon with our mana because we have Island, Shrine, Ghost Quarter, Swamp. So we only have single white, but then we do have a way to get a plains. We can Ghost Quarter one of our islands, turn it into a plains, and then we have double white to cast the Gideon. So that is, in fact, what we do. So we just immediately emblem, because we know that this Elspeth is about to die because of the Island Walker, and we still have an island. And so we just want to make 3 more tokens, and we want them to be as big as possible here. So we can attack Nissa here for 6, and unless they have, if they have a Lord in their hand here, then we're basically just like in really bad shape, but we're probably not going to beat that anyway, because they can just kill us in 2 hits anyway, and we can't race that. So we basically can't beat a Merfolk of the Pearl Trident or Lord of Atlantis from this position. So we can't, I mean, trying to play around a card we can't beat isn't going to get us anywhere. So we have to assume that they don't have that in hand. So they can't violate a Lord. And they probably would have anyway if they had it. Not that it matters, but just to get the extra loyalty off the Elspeth. But anyway, so if they have another 2-drop in hand, then they would have to basically trade their Lord and their other creature just to keep Nissa alive. And if they don't have another 2-drop in hand, then Nissa dies. So I'm okay with either of those scenarios. So I just want to kill the Nissa here first. And they didn't have it, so Nissa just dies. And we're going to make more tokens, which basically forces the opponent's hand at attacking Elspeth, which preserves our life total just enough, because if they didn't have to attack Elspeth twice, we'd be at 6. And then we're basically just dead next turn, almost dead. And we can't race it. But since they're having to attack Elspeth, I guess maybe not having to attack Elspeth, but attacking Elspeth here basically prevents me from getting 3 more 2/2s next turn. But then this also puts us ahead in the race because now we're attacking for 12 and they're at 16, and they can only attack back with the for 3 and we're at 12. So even though we lose our Elspeth, she did enough work, got in all the damage that needed to happen. They play another Nissa, and now I'm thinking, okay, my opponent has a Nissa. Nissa is not threatening to ultimate in time. So basically, the best they could do is scry, but then they're dead next turn. So scrying isn't going to help them. So all they're going to do off of the Nissa is use the zero ability. So at best, they're going to get a permanent onto the battlefield. And like at this point, we're like, okay, whatever, I don't care, about a permanent. I just want to kill you. So since we have lethal next turn, I'm just attacking the opponent. I'll just let you keep Nissa. You go to 4. I'm going to make some spirits. Now I have, what is it, 20 power worth of creatures on the board. And so you just draw off the Silvergill, minus or 0 Nissa, can't find an answer to 20 power worth of tokens, and just die. So yeah, those were some tight games. Definitely had some draw steps in both games, drawing the Damnation in game 1, and then drawing the 6th land for the Elspeth, and then drawing the Gideon in this game were pretty fortuitous, kind of right at the right time. But as you can see, Wrath effects are very good in this matchup. This is another one of those kind of go wide creature matchups where the Wraths really shine. And we have ways to get the Wrath through counter magic with our discard spells. And then we also have answers to their vials with like explosives and disenchant. And then we have our own threats to threaten, to basically get the game over with before they can draw back out of it. And we also have individual removal spells with Fatal Push and Path. So it's really hard for them to fight through all of the answers that we have. But we do have to close the door before they get back into it, because they do have things like Spreading Seas combined with Lord of Atlantis to make their creatures island walk, which get past all our tokens that our planeswalkers are producing. So this matchup is certainly not like a great matchup, but I think we're favored, and yeah, I think the game's kind of played out the way I would expect them to.